Welcome to the DIY Goalie Podcast, where hosts and goalie coaches Nathan Park and Connor Monday share their insights on how to become a better goalie.
Goalies, welcome back to another episode of the DIY Goalie Podcast presented by True North Goaltending. Take two. Hopefully this one goes well. We're continuing Connor's momentum from last week of having like 7 takes before he got the episode right. We're finally back together. Seems like it's been a while since it's just been an episode with you and I. So as always, myself, Nathan Park, and my co-host Connor Monday, and we are joined again by Emerson Monday, who is learning all the ropes as she's, a month or two old and really going to be a superstar in the making with all the info we're feeding her early on. How are we doing over there today, Connor?
I'm showing her pro reads right now and
Ooh.
pro drills and all that with our fellas over at In Goal Mag. But no, we're just passed out my arms right now. She's fussing a little. She was fussing a little bit, but we've managed to kind of calm down. So now she's asleep in my arms. So we'll just hope that is the case for the rest of this pod. And yeah, like Nathan said, we're take two into this today. Just unfortunately just couldn't collect my thoughts last time. Couldn't do it this time either. So it is what it is. But yeah, no, it definitely feels like it's been a while because it was me last week, and then we had Riyad Kamis the week before, and then I think the week before the week before that was me again. So where you been, man?
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. Yeah, we're finally starting to wind down a little bit after the craziness of evaluation season. We've got a nice little bit of a lull before all the actual development stuff kind of kicks in here. So yeah, it's been a busy time. It's nice to finally have the new website from the DIY goalie stuff all merged over to True North Goaltending. That is done. There's still things I need to do to the website to spruce it up a bit, but it is functional. It does work. So if you guys want to go over, check that out. We do have a concentration grid generator on there, as well as the merch, drills, the articles, the podcast, all that good stuff. And of course, our in-person goalie coaching services. What's coming down the pipeline too, once I get time, which I don't ever have enough of, but we are going to be working on our virtual programs and streamlining that a little bit to be able to offer a little bit more for you guys. And we are also going to be putting together that coaches course for how to support our goalies a little bit better. So that's on the docket. That's going to come down the road. I'll try and streamline and be as quick as I can on that, but things are usually busy in my side of things. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I think before we get started, I need to have kind of an old man yells at cloud rant before we get
Oh boy, I
into
love these.
David's. Yeah. So I've obviously been watching a lot of hockey over the last little bit in terms of doing evaluations for programs, as well as like evaluation goalie sessions and stuff like that. Started working with an academy recently as well. I don't know how much of this is me getting old. And, now that I'm in my 30s, I know a lot of you out there are probably like, you're not old. But in terms of goaltending, I'm old. I don't understand why everybody is so anti using their stick nowadays. Like, I get the movement, or I get the thought process behind using the pads with how like much the puck bounces off pads nowadays, and sometimes we don't have the time, I guess, to actually execute a proper stick save. But I feel like goalies are actively not using their stick, and I know there are goalie coaches out there that are not teaching using the stick at all and just using pads. And that's my kind of old man yells at cloud moment. I'm just kind of sitting here like, I feel like it's a dying art and we need to implement our stick more. Like, it's kind of baffling me a little bit because I saw a lot of goalies actively not using their stick and using their pads and kicking out some pretty atrocious rebounds that they do not have control over when it was a very easy situation to make a stick save with. And you have so much more control using a stick. And yeah, I don't know. That's just my old man rant for today. So I had to get that off my chest before we get going. So
Is that your segment today? Is that the segment for today?
yeah,
Why
that's
is
it. I'm
nobody
done.
using their stick?
Yeah, see you
Oh well,
guys.
goalies,
No,
thanks so much for listening to the DIY Goalie Podcast presented by True North. Um,
yeah,
no, I totally get it. Like, I know, like I've seen it a bit, and I know that pad technology nowadays is geared more towards controlling your rebound or getting a better pop off the pad where it basically flies to the blue line. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think we could be running into some real trouble with that. Because like otherwise, like, what's the point of the stick, really? I think. Well, actually, you know what? Like, as I'm thinking about it live, like, could be this way. It could be the same mentality as kind of as the RVH and how it's misused a lot, right? So I think just kind of like because goalie companies and goalie pad companies will gear more towards, like, hey, our pads have better rebound control, this and that, so you can pop your rebounds farther, this and that. And so I think goalies are so geared or so excited rather towards that they forget about the stick entirely. And with some goalie coaches are teaching that. I think it's the same mentality, I guess, in a way as the RVH. It's
you
starting
know,
to get misused.
you know what my theory on it is? Now sticks are $450 and nobody wants a single puck to touch their stick.
That's true. Where's our boy Belly with
Yeah, Belly.
KYC hockey?
Yeah. If you guys go back to the episode of Nathan Beliveau, there is a coupon code to use at KYC Sports. Although I don't think they have any goalie sticks right now. I think it's just player sticks. They're still, I think,
Where
trying to figure out the technology on the goalie side. But
I feel like we should be involved in that. I feel like there should be like a KYC Sports True North partnership there.
yeah, I'm sure we could figure something out. Um, I'll fit it into my schedule 2 months from now.
Just add it on to
for,
the list of
for
things that you
stepping
already
in.
have going on.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Uh,
I gave you props in the last episode, but I guess I'll actually be mushy gushy and give it here, man. Like you've been on the grind. You have been
yeah.
on the grind and just putting together just some excellent programs here. And so I guess just like I said in the last episode, I'll put it here as well. The stick taps to you for grinding away and getting all this stuff done.
Yeah. Thanks. Some days I kind of question why I decided to do all of this, but we're here. We're pushing through. It is what
There's
it is.
there is one other thing that I wanted to touch on here before we kind of jump into our stuff today, and I don't know if we've talked about it yet in a pod, but you were hired as a agent slash goalie director with an agency. So just kind of talk to us about that. Like, how did that all? I mean, like you've told me personally, but just kind of tell our viewers, just like how did that all come about, and what can we expect out of you?
Yeah, so I was actually going to touch on that because it does relate to the topic that we're going to cover today. So I was going to touch on that later, but we can get it out of the way. So yeah, there's I joined an agency called Advocate Athlete, and it was started by a former teammate of mine when I played in Fort Francis in Ontario. He actually got the RBC Cup game-winning goal in overtime against the Brooks Bandits in what would that have been 2017, I think. Point shot from the blue line overtime winner. So he started this company a couple of years ago, and they've kind of started not only doing the agency side of things and the representation, but they also do like mentorship stuff and video breakdown stuff. And kind of their philosophy behind things was trying to get programs set up that they didn't have while playing. Him and a D partner that he had, they kind of started this together. And so they're looking to basically just provide resources and programs for players to, further their careers and help them find placements and stuff like that. So I've been looking to get into more of the hockey side of things to hopefully be able to move towards doing this full time, because some of you may know, some of you may not. I also have a day job on top of the business, on top of two kids and a wife, on top of having two billets. Uh, so this is hopefully a step towards being able to do this a little bit more full time. But yeah, so they didn't have anyone um, who had any knowledge with goaltending. So I've kind of come on board to help them with that. So I've done like some video breakdowns with some goalies already, and then yeah, just kind of trying to get my feet wet and learn a little bit on the agency side of things, because I think that's good to know and good to get connections with, and just kind of start that side of things. So yeah, it's a bit of a new venture, kind of testing the ropes, testing the waters a little bit, and helping them out too. And yeah, they're building and trying to kind of revamp a little bit, and as they figure things out too. And so I think it's a pretty cool thing to be a part of. So we'll put all of that in the show notes if you guys are interested in getting advisorship or mentorship or anything like that. Um, it's Advocate Athlete, but yeah, we'll put in the socials and the website and all that in the show notes if you guys are interested and want to reach out. And you can always send me an email, goalies at truenorthgoaltending.com too. That's always an avenue if you ever want to get in touch. So yeah, that's kind of, didn't think I had enough on my plate, so figured I'd add some more. So
Well, you know what? I have no sympathy for you.
nor should you. I did it to myself. But yeah, so that's
All right, what are we
that's
talking
all
about today?
Yeah, so going back to well, we're probably like a month or two ago now when we did this, but kind of our listener question mailbag episodes. We touched on it briefly, but there was one question that we said we would circle back to. And today is that fateful day that we're circling back to it. So David M, who is a friend of my mom's actually, and I've worked with his goalie before. But his question was, would love to learn more about what to expect coming into your draft year, pass for goalies and late bloomers, and feedback on the advantages, disadvantages of the different leagues, AEHL, CSSHL, JPHL, AJHL, BCHL, etc. So, for some context, they're based in the Calgary area. So, a lot of these leagues are kind of, in Alberta and BC, kind of Western Canada. So, we'll kind of touch somewhat specifically on them, but we'll kind of also touch on just kind of general paths too for careers, because there's a lot of things that have changed over the years. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out too, because things are very different than even 5 years ago. As well as like when we played, there's kind of basically one stream through minor hockey, and then you split into either major junior or kind of the junior A and NCAA route. And now that is all in a blender and all up in the air. So we'll kind of go through some of that. And yeah, that's kind of going to be the topic for today. So Connor reached out to Curtis Muka, who is the Edmonton Oil Kings goalie coach, as well as kind of a former coach and mentor of Connor. I don't have as much experience with Curtis, but I have helped him out in his kind of goalie coaching side of things before. But Connor, why don't you kind of give us the Coles notes a little bit on what Curtis gave you for information, I guess, based around this question.
Yeah, so I guess first up, just like huge thank you to Curtis for taking my call and just kind of chatting with me about it. Yeah, so when I was talking with Curtis, we kind of talked quite at length a bit about this, and so the biggest thing that he was saying that he kind of takes away from kind of what to expect or your expectations when it comes coming into your draft year is pressure. How do you handle the pressure? Whether it's pressure from the media, self-induced, um, just kind of in that sort of spectrum. It's just how do you handle the big moments essentially is what he was going on about, and that's I think makes a lot of sense. When we see guys like Nail Yakupov as an example, he was supposed to be like this next big thing coming into oil country before Connor McDavid, and he completely, he was just he was not the guy that a lot of fans had envisioned him to be. So I think just kind of that was the biggest takeaway with him, was just how do you handle the pressure, whether it's coming from yourself or media, fans, the organization, whatever that may be, is that we want to make sure it's just how you handle yourself and how you perform, excuse me, in the big moments there. um and so I mean, like, we deal with pressure all the time, and in any sort of circumstance, whether it's overtime or you're up by a goal or you're down by a goal or whatever that may be, is that we deal with those certain types of things. And so it doesn't matter at what kind of age level that you're at. um is just your coaches want you to thrive under pressure, and to be able to perform in the big moments. And so that was the biggest thing. And I think it's a good thing to take away from that, is what Curtis was saying, is just how do you handle the big moments, how do you handle the pressure.
Yeah, a big one too that I know like the scouts and the coaches look for is their kind of version of consistency. Like, does the
Yeah.
way you play kind of, you know, offer the same result pretty much night in and night out? Like, coaches want goalies that they can rely on, or that they know what they're going to get from them, right? So if you're a goalie that maybe struggles with, your mindset or your routine or something like that, and it leads to you being in one game where you have a 55 save shutout, and the very next game you're letting in 5 of the first 6 shots, that might be something you kind of want to clean up a little bit, because that is definitely something, whether it's right or wrong is another argument, but that is for sure something that most coaches are looking for when it comes to draft. Um, the other thing when it comes to going into your draft too is, if you do find yourself in the year or two leading up to a draft year, and if you're in a position that you might potentially be drafted, whether it's a Bantam draft, whether it's an NHL draft, a junior draft, whatever the case is, um, we need to make sure that you're doing the things you need to do off the ice as well as on the ice, and that means like act professionally. So are you dressing properly when you go to the rink? Because you never know when a scout might be at a game, they like what they see, they ask your coach to send you out to talk to them after the game or whatever, because that does happen. And if you're walking out in Crocs and socks and a button up Hawaiian shirt or whatever the case is, right? That sort of stuff is kind of stuff that they will make note of, right? So make sure you're acting professional. You're showing well. You're being, you're having a good attitude. All of that sort of stuff. Make sure when you're on the ice, your body language is good. Even if you let in a bad goal, show, you never know, somebody might be there. Show them that you bounce back properly, that you have a good reset routine. You don't let it derail your game, all of that sort of stuff. That's kind of the stuff that people will see when they come and scout you and they come and watch you. The other thing is too is, try and ask around, find which tournaments or which camps or whatever that these coaches or scouts will be at, because that can kind of help get your name out there too. Like, but make sure that it's legit, because a lot of these camps and stuff can say that they have a bunch of scouts coming to them, and it's really just a cash grab. So kind of ask around, get some intel from maybe parents or players that have been through it maybe 2-3 years before you have, and kind of get the info on that to be able to put yourself in the right spots to get looks, because a lot of hockey is right place, right time. You can have all the skill in the world, but if nobody sees you, unfortunately you don't go anywhere. And vice versa, you could maybe not be the most skilled guy out there, but you have somebody looking for a third line grinder for their team at the right place, and they see you grinding it out, they like your attitude, they like your effort, all of a sudden you're on their radar, right? So just make sure that you're doing the right things, you're staying true to how you play, don't try and play like somebody else, and be professional and all that good stuff, and make sure you're doing the right things, because you never know who's watching. Same goes with practice, right? Your coach has a lot of input for these guys. Make sure that they have a good word to say about you.
I guess I was gonna jump on that, just kind of with the the just kind of, you're representing yourself, like you're advertising yourself in a way, right? And so that's a big one there. Speaking of coaches talking to each other, I did ask um just kind of the question, because Dustin Schwartz and Curtis Muka, two former teachers of mine, very, very close and very, very tight, and so it just kind of was a match made in heaven, with Dustin working with the Oilers at the time, and Curtis working with the Oil Kings. So I did ask the question of, is there any kind of communication, I guess, between him and Dustin Schwartz of the Edmonton Oilers when it came to goaltending prospects with the Oil Kings, and talking about just kind of, was there any dialogue there? The answer I got was actually quite surprising, and there wasn't really. The only time that I guess they kind of really did talk about any goaltending prospects, which I'm assuming that they did, but I guess, like, in terms of anything that, like, could have had any actual potential or any real value, was when Sebastian Kosa was in his draft here and drafted by the Red Wings. So I think, so it was quite surprising to me that they didn't really talk very much regarding kind of potential um, goaltending prospects when it came to the Oil Kings and the Oilers, which I suppose makes sense to an extent. I mean, like, the Oilers do have their goalie kind of scout guy, and the Oil Kings, they have their due process. And when it comes to that, but I mean, the thing is, the takeaway at the end of the day is that the hockey world is small, the goaltending world is smaller, like Nathan likes to point out, and so we do all talk to each other, and so the word of mouth does fly around very, very quickly. So that is something to consider as well, is that you want to be, if you're going to be, if you want to be spoken about, you want to be spoken about in the positive light rather than negative.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big thing leading into the draft. The other thing too, so we're in the age of technology, we're in the age of Live Barn and Black Bear TV and Flow Hockey and whatever else. There's like a bajillion. It's basically like cable now. You have to have like 12 different subscriptions to watch players play. But if you are putting together like a video package or whatever to send to coaches or scouts, um, don't make it just a highlight reel. Include some goals against. And if you can, try and group things in games. So, like, have one game worth in one video of saves and goals and puck playing, and then have another video that's another game's worth of saves and goals and puck playing. Um, there's a lot of kids out there that put together their best highlights, their top highlights, and send that out and around as packages. It's it doesn't tell the story. It really doesn't, right? Like coaches and scouts, they want to see the things you need to work on just as much as they want to see the things you're good at. And the other thing is too is every other player out there is sending their highlight package. So you'll actually stand out a little bit more if you are willing to put yourself out there with your mistakes as well, and to be like, hey, I've let in these goals too. This gives you an idea of some of the things they need to work on. But, as a goalie coach, like if I'm picking between four or five of, I guess two of like four or five goalies that I'm looking at and they're sending me video and stuff like that, I'm going to look at maybe one who, you know, maybe they are foundationally very good, but they just don't have the skating ability and they play too far out of their net because of, or like, and it doesn't support their skating ability. That I can look at and be like, okay, we can fix that. I don't mind like every goal they're letting in, they're just a little bit behind because they're too far out and they don't skate very well. We can fix that. As opposed to maybe goalie B that is letting in goals because they can't track a puck, or, they just, are lacking some other foundational skill, or they don't have the situational awareness, or they don't have the effort, or whatever the case is that's harder to teach. That's going to play a factor into the decision I make, right? And so that's why you guys want to include goals as well as saves and puck playing too, so you can showcase those skills as well, because that's important for these coaches too.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, for sure. That's a big thing. Um, I want to move on, just kind of talking about late bloomers,
Yeah.
for a second there. And so Curtis was telling me, there's a lot of good stories, about goalies and players just in general, just kind of coming up in late bloomer stages. Um, Obviously the grind to get there's a little bit more, more uphill, I suppose, in a sense. And so, just biggest thing, Curtis was telling me was, if you're able to get on with like a junior team of some sort, in the AJHL, BCHL, or anything, along those lines, just that is an option and an avenue, in order to get to the next level. I mean, we've seen stories like Cale McCarr, who played, I think it was with the Saints.
Brooks Bandits.
Brooks Bandits, thank you. Who then went on to play down in NCAA, wins the Hobie Baker, and then gets drafted by the Colorado Avalanche. So like there are options for that. And like we talk about goalies a lot, just kind of really being a big culprit when it comes to that, late bloomer stage, where we see prospective goalies that, will get drafted, but we won't really hear from them again for another couple years. Jesper Wallstad coming to mind as an example. Stuart Skinner, again, as much as I like to plug him around here, but another good prime example of that is just be aware that it will take a little bit extra time just to kind of put nose to the grindstone, if you will, and just do what you need to do in order to get to the next level.
Yeah. How I see it is, I mean, part of it I think is kind of the lack of development goalies get during their career. That kind of leads to us being a little bit more quote unquote late bloomers. The other thing too is there's just so much less spots for goalies, right? So like it's hard to break in as a new goalie. And unfortunately too, the mindset is always experience trumps all. Like if you look on paper, a junior team would much rather take a 20-year-old over a 17-year-old just because they quote unquote have the experience. Whereas that's not always the best move. Your 17-year-old goalie could potentially be better than that 20-year-old goalie, right? So there's a lot of factors I think that kind of play against us as goalies that lead to us being, labeled as late bloomers. Um, I think the biggest thing is just trying to push through the adversity, and trying to just continue to do what you need to do to improve your game. Put yourself in the positions as best you can to get the looks, because again, that's kind of what it comes down to in the goaltending world. Like we talked about, it comes down to a lot of who you know and being in the right place at the right time, right? And so, you know, that's again kind of why nowadays having an advisor at a younger age is becoming more and more common, because A, there's so many different options now, and B, because people are just trying to get names out there, right? They're trying to get on people's radar. There's so many teams nowadays, there's so many leagues nowadays, and it's really hard to navigate this current landscape of hockey. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more in a little bit here. But the more good things that you can do, the more you can improve your game incrementally every single day. Those are the things that are going to help you to really kind of push through that mold, regardless of what age you're at, right? I mean, you look at guys like Victor Foss, who is what, 30 something when he broke into the NHL. I mean, he only was around for 2 or 3 seasons, at least notably, right? But that's something, you just never know. I mean, there was uh, who am I thinking of? Zach Facali, I think, who's just been grinding and grinding at semi-pro in Europe. Has had a couple cups of coffee in the NHL. But you just never know. Like, I mean, even a guy like Calvin Pickard, who looked like he was kind of not going to be in the NHL anymore and just going to be a career AHL goalie, all of a sudden gets a shot with the Oilers, and has kind of gave himself some career stability. So if you are serious about wanting to play at a high level and at an elite level, just keep putting in the work. It might not always pay off. That's the unfortunate reality, but at least then you can kind of tell yourself, hey, I did what I could. I put in the effort. I tried. It just didn't happen. But um, it's tough. Like, the odds are stacked against us as goalies, and that's why I think we're always labeled as late bloomers. Um, but just do what you got to do, put in the work, and get better every day. And yeah, do the right things.
Yeah. When I was chatting with Curtis, we talked about we talked about a number of different things. So I'll just kind of rattle it off here. Like I was telling him, and this kind of paints me a little bit in a bad light, is that there has been a couple of points in time where I have struggled to kind of differentiate between two goalies. Sometimes it's just, I think the example that I used was like a 17-year-old Sebastian Casa, and I think I said, I don't remember who I said. I think it was like Stuart Skinner or somebody along those lines, where, both of which two very good goalies. And so just trying to, like if you were to tell me, one of them's a WHL goaltender and the other one isn't, I wouldn't have been able to pick them out in the crowd. Kind of says a lot about me, to be honest. And so I was telling him, it's just like, what would, like I had asked him, and we kind of touched on this already, just kind of what would define a WHL goalie, or differentiate, a goalie that's at the brink of being able to make it to the next level, and a WHL goalie. And so he was saying consistency, which we kind of talked about already. And so that was the biggest takeaway with that. So, I guess in terms of expectations for draft is that, how do you handle yourself under pressure, and then maintaining consistency.
Yeah. And I think too, like, in my opinion, a lot of it, when you get to those higher levels and margin is so razor thin, a lot of it comes down to fit, right? Like, are you a team that gives up a lot on the rush? Well, the goalie that's better on the rush is probably going to be a better fit for you, right? Or are you a team that really collapses in the house and you need somebody who can fight through traffic really well, right? Like, these are the things that at those higher levels are going to be kind of make or break, right? And what I like, one thing that I think goalies kind of struggle with too is the situational awareness. That's one that at the higher levels really is going to make or break a team, as to if you can actually, you know, be on the team, I guess. So, like, the scouts or the coach or whatever is going to look at these things like situational awareness. That's going to be a big one for them. That's going to really set you apart at that higher level. There's also going to be just kind of those subtle things like how much is your effort or your battle. That's a big one that coaches look at too. Do you battle hard on every play? Do you try and throw something out to keep the puck out? Do you follow your rebounds and push to them? Do you push across on lateral plays? You know, like all of this stuff. They're like that on top of the stick handling. Those are kind of, you know, the smaller details that when you get to those levels and the margin is razor thin on skill set, that's what they're going to look for, right? And just coming out of evaluations at like AA levels and stuff like this over the last couple of weeks, there's a few times where goalies are really close together in overall skill set, and I have to talk to the coaches and be like, what are you looking for? Right? Like, do you want a goalie that can skate better and battles hard? Well, then this guy's your guy. If you want a goalie that's more positionally sound and kind of more of a calming presence, well, then let's go over to this guy. The other thing to think of too, sometimes with these teams, are they planning for right now or are they planning for down the road, right? So do you want maybe goalie X and goalie Y are really close together in skill set, and maybe goalie Y gets the edge because they're younger and they want to build for the future or whatever the case is, right? So these are some of the things too that go into these decisions. But as best you can, just each level you take, get better at the situational awareness. I think that's number one. Get better at finding pucks through traffic. That's another one. Get better at communication, get better at puck playing, get better at effort in your battle and your compete. And those things are kind of probably going to cover more often than not the general what coaches are looking for at those levels and the consistency, like we mentioned. You're muted. You're muted. Maybe you're muted on Zencaster.
There we go.
Oh,
jeez. Oh boy, it's been a recording.
You're gonna have fun with this one.
Fuck. Yeah. Switching gears, kind of a little bit, and I feel like we're kind of taking maybe a little bit longer than with this part of the segment than we would. I did want to just touch on just kind of the leagues quickly because that was the second part of David's question there. We didn't, Curtis and I, we didn't really jump into kind of the differences between every single league because otherwise that would have been a 45-hour conversation. Instead, what we decided to do is we just decided to kind of combine everything into one just kind of question. And so the question that I asked Curtis went when it came to drafting players into the WHL. Do the Oil Kings, or do you think that teams in general in the WHL would consider looking at kind of more of the outlaw leagues? Like, are they part of those conversations or not? Now, for obvious reasons, Curtis can tell me kind of what the Old Kings do. But he did mention that like there were talks about players um, when it came to the Old Kings drafting um, that are from these other leagues. Um, but he did mention that generally a lot of teams, specifically in the WHL, kind of stay away from those leagues. And I recall working with a coach a while ago that was not a huge fan of kind of the outlaw leagues and such, and had felt that, if you want to play at the WHL or play at a semi-pro-ish level, then you'd want to stray away from those leagues, understandably so. Curtis did mention that the track record kind of with these other leagues, albeit provided that there are some programs, JPHL kind of being one of them, that do offer some good stuff, and then there's some programs that don't offer some good stuff, and that is both in the Hockey Canada and the non-Hockey Canada system. So I guess just kind of in terms of that is that like biggest thing with anything is that you want to make sure that you do your research over anything. You know, read what's online in the forums. I would personally take other people's experiences with a grain of salt, but it definitely is something to keep in or bear in mind. But you would definitely want to do your research and advisor's position, like in Nathan's case. Just you want to make sure again that you're going to be able that you're going to find what's going to be the best fit for you. Now, bear in mind that if playing at the WHL level or at the CHL level is something that you want to do, then maybe playing in these outlaw leagues is not going to be something that you're going to want to be looking towards. Like Curtis was telling me, is that I think it was a player by the name was like I think it was Nathan Kent or Kemp or whatever his name was. I don't remember specifically what the name was. Who played in the JPHL was somebody that the Old Kings were looking at, but had felt that they needed defense rather than forward. So that guy was out of the question, but I believe he did get drafted by a team in the WHL. So it does happen. It can happen, but it doesn't happen generally very often enough. And so even then Curtis was mentioning, with the changes in the NCAA rules and all that is something that he couldn't really comment on because it's something that's happening in real time. So we don't know what really the outcome or just kind of what the optics with that would look like. So that is just something that we did just kind of touch on as a generalization rather than going into each individual league, because each individual league has their pros and cons. But if you want to make it at the highest level possible, there are definitely some leagues that will get you to that level compared to others, I guess.
Yeah, so obviously we can comment more so on Western Canada, specifically Alberta. I'm not as familiar with the landscape currently in the States, but my general kind of thought process on it is these unsanctioned tier 2 junior leagues tend to, more often than not really be a good option for trying to get to that next level and get drafted and stuff like that. Like, you can still do it. It's just, in my opinion, a harder route to go. Now, when we're talking about the unsanctioned leagues like the HSL, like the PHL, like the JPHL, I don't know if I really want to include the PHL in that because I don't know, the skill level tends to be a step down, I find, from the HSL. But in our area, the unsanctioned leagues are getting a ton of traction because of the development plan that they offer. And now a lot of times what's happening is when you graduate basically from the HSL at 12 or whatever, you usually kind of want to hop over to the U15 AA or AAA stream that is sanctioned in Alberta's case in the AEHL. But that tends to be what a lot of players are doing, because you get so much more development with the unsanctioned side of things. Like I think the minimum is 10 hours of goaltending development per team. So that means like 1-on-2 goalie development. Some programs offer 15 or 20. Um, and that's just kind of unheard of on the minor hockey side of things. Now you're paying a little bit more for it, but normally it's a lot more stable. You're not picking up ice randomly. You're not doing as much fundraising normally. The other thing is too is there's a lot more travel involved, a lot more commitment involved. So you got to kind of weigh the options there. Like, can you swing it financially? Can you swing it with the time commitment? And then from there, it's kind of a decision. Do you go the AA or AAA route, or do you go the academy route? And that's kind of another decision that you need to make. So there's pros and cons to both. Like the academy route is way more money. Normally, the JPHL is a little less money than the CSSHL. So the JPHL is kind of the academy that's unsanctioned, where the CSSHL is the one that is under Hockey Canada. But it's kind of all inclusive. You don't really have to pay anything extra. You don't have to pay like for hotels or travel or anything like that. It's all inclusive. The nice thing about the academy route too is you kind of get your evenings and most weekends back, because normally the kids are practicing during the day. Obviously you lose weekends that you do like showcases or games for or whatever, and each league's a little different in how they do that. So if you can swing the financial side of things, which is a whole other topic because of, I mean, we've touched on it before, the increasing cost of hockey, like the academy side is very expensive. If you can swing that, I find it's probably a good route, because you're getting basically, 4 to 6 ice times, like development ice times a week plus games. And a lot of times on the goalie side of things, there's a dedicated goalie person doing video and doing goalie sessions and whatever. So the development is usually pretty good. You kind of get a little bit more kind of work-life balance a little bit. Now, you have to work a little harder at school because hockey takes up a little bit more of that school time. But it is definitely an option if you can swing it. Now, the AA triple side of things, you don't get as much ice, but it is cheaper and you still get lots of looks. Like it's still a premier kind of route to go, I guess, if you're looking to get drafted and all that stuff. That's kind of still, I guess, the cream of the crop way to go, is the AA, AAA route. But I do see the academy side getting a lot more traction, getting a lot more looks from these high end teams. But again, the unfortunate part is the unsanctioned side of things still gets kind of the nose turned up to it. So I think Curtis had said there are some WHL teams that will not look in these unsanctioned leagues, like the JPHL, like the HSL, kind of those kind of leagues. So you could potentially handcuff yourself a little bit there. I also find too, because people are somewhat reluctant, there's not as many people going that route. So you could argue that the skill level is hit and miss, depending on the program, depending on the age level. So it's tough to say. Like, I think the unsanctioned side is doing a lot of good things, but I still think there's a lot of, animosity between the two sides that can kind of leave you at a bit of a disadvantage going the unsanctioned route. With the NCAA changes, that kind of changes everything now too. You don't really have to pick one side or the other. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think gunning for a CHL position now is going to be kind of what everybody's wanting to do. If you don't make a team there, then that's where I think these junior leagues are going to kind of be that, catch all for those kids that can't make major junior. And then that kind of goes back into the late bloomer talk. Like, maybe you weren't there at 16, but at 1920 you are, or something like that, and then you can still kind of scratch and claw your way up to an NCAA spot or something like that. But I think we'll probably also circle back to this kind of topic as well once I get a little bit more involved on the advisor side of things and learn a little bit more of this. We can kind of have a little bit more of an in-depth discussion on it, and kind of once I get a little bit more experience on that side. But the biggest thing is just write down your options, weigh the pros and cons to both. Um, Ask around and kind of see like what sort of exposure your routes go and all that stuff, or get what exposure they get, and kind of make a decision that makes the most sense for you as well as your family, and go from there. Because the other thing with the academy side too is it's kind of professionalizing kids a little earlier, and sometimes that might not be desirable, like, right, like you might not want your kid to leave home and bill it at 14 years old or 13 years old or whatever the case is, right? So that's stuff you have to think about as well too. And yeah, just kind of make the decision with the information you have that's best for your situation.
Yeah, I got nothing really else to pile on top of that. I think we kind of nailed on top of all that, and yeah, definitely maybe something to circle back to a little bit later down the line. But yeah, no, I think all just kind of good stuff there for that particular question. And again, a huge shout out to Curtis Muka for taking time for me and just kind of going through that with me and just just having a chat about it. And it's always a pleasure to talk to him.
And we might be breaking down his walls and maybe get him on the podcast
Yeah.
sometime in the future. We'll see. We're working on it. But that being said, we do have some exciting stuff coming down on the podcast in the pipeline that we're looking forward to. So next week's episode is going to be a good one to tune in for, I think. We haven't done the interviews yet, but they are lined up. So I think it's going to be a good episode. And what we're going to try and do is kind of front load a couple of recordings here to put ourselves in a better position so we're not as scrambly. But yeah, why don't you kind of go through some of the new stuff we have to offer on the True North goaltending side, and maybe how we can get supported a little bit.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here, are you? Oh boy.
It's mostly
Uh,
just the DIY stuff now under the True North
Yeah,
stuff.
I touched on it in the last pod, but yeah, we'll touch on it
Yeah.
again here as we have officially moved everything over from the DIY goalie website over to True North Goaltending. So if you guys head over to truenorthgoaltending.com, you guys will see our new updated website where we have all of our coaching services available. Whether you want to book online with us at our facility, our goaltending camps, how we can support your organization, and off ice and virtual programs like Nathan said we're going to talk about. But we also have a content tab that is available and ready to go, which touches on all of our podcasts that we've released up to this point. I see something here for courses as well, which my internet doesn't want me to see for some
That's
reason. So,
Yeah, so we
um,
have the complete goalie breakdown course, and then we'll be working on one for coaches and for goalie parents too down the
right.
road.
Moving on from that, we do also have our blogs that have now been moved over there as well. I haven't done any blogs, but I know that Nathan does do them from time to time. And all of our drills that we use at True North Goaltending are available at truenorthgoaltending.com. So if you are scrapped for drills or anything along those lines, feel free to head over to truenorthgoaltending.com and you can rip some drills from our website. And as well, we also do have concentration grids, like Nathan was saying as well, available for that. On top of that, we also do have our online store featuring such things as school is important, but goaltending is importanter, unisex adult hoodie. And let's see what else we got here. We got my posts are listening. That's another one. Don't make me use my goalie dad or goalie mom voice. and then Certified Beer League Beauty, another one just popping up here with that. But yeah, no, you can head over to truenorthgoaltending.com, and that is where we have all of our DIY goaltending, DIY goalie stuff available, and it's all under one umbrella now. So we have officially, or Nathan has officially moved all that over, and I'm sure that is probably the biggest thing that he wanted to get done over the off season, and I'm certainly thinking that he's happy that it's all done.
Yeah, now to tackle the 18 other things I added to my list since I started that. So,
Yeah, see, there you go. So there's the ad read for this pod. So there you go. Yeah, no, it all looks great. I definitely recommend everybody going over and checking it out.
And
It's a fun one.
Yeah, that's something too. We'll be doing a bit of a better job of staying on top of. So I know there's there's quite a few drills that we have in our repertoire that aren't on the website, and so that's stuff that as we go, we'll eventually kind of be updating. I do want to do more blog posts. I do want to do more video content, and that's kind of stuff that's going to be coming down the pipeline as I can slowly tackle it. But we do have a social media person on board with us too for like the last month or so. So that's been nice to get some more content out. So yeah, we're slowly getting there, slowly building, slowly pushing, trying to give you guys more resources and more content and more stuff to, just be better goalies.
Yeah. See, there you go. You don't see any other goaltending companies do that. So definitely love to see that. So yeah, no,
I do give Matt props to Jamie and what he's doing over with the elite goalie method and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, no, go check it out. Go truenorthgoaltending.com. It's where it's your one-stop shop for everything coaching services related, as well as kind of online courses and online content in terms of goaltending for you guys. So definitely go check it out. No, go check out some of the other stuff that we do have over at truenorthgoaltending.com. If you are in the Edmonton area and want to join our ranks, you can go to the Our Company and join our team section. If you have any questions or anything, you can contact us, goalies at truenorthgoaltending.com, or you can go to our contact page, or you can learn a little bit about all of our amazing staff members with truenorthgoaltending.com, like myself, Nathan, Ethan, Kylie, Troy, Zach, Courtney, Skylar, Caden, Riley, and Ty Swanson, another one that's recently joined us. And as well as we do have some ringette coaches on staff with True North Goaltending as well, which we got to get profiles for, but it's a slow burn. It's a slow process. But a lot of great stuff happening over at truenorthgoaltending.com. So make sure you guys go check it out. Hi, everybody. Future Connor here after editing the pod. And obviously, it wouldn't be a DIY goalie podcast without some kind of technical issue. And unfortunately, I'm the one that's experiencing it this time. So we were overdue for one, I think. And so all of Nathan's technical problems that he was dealing with early on in the podcast is now befallen upon me, as I was the one having the audio issues. I was the one having the video issues. So unfortunately, all the original audio and video was lost. It was just the outro anyway, so I'm just basically here to redo it. But yeah, no, like I said in the last clip, there's a lot of good stuff happening over at truenorthgoaltending.com. So make sure you guys go check us out there. All of our DIY goalie stuff has officially been moved over. That's it. We're done. All of that can now be found at truenorthgoaltending.com. I've already kind of gone through that. So if you guys want to re-listen to that, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, beyond that, we were unfortunately able to get to Nathan's segment in this episode. So it'll either be the next episode or the episodes following that we will be getting into Nathan's segment. We do have some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline here, so we want to make sure that we get that out as soon as possible to you guys, because I think what we have coming up is very, very exciting, and can't wait to share that with you guys. So with that being said, that will do it for another episode of the DIY Goalie presented by True North Goaltending. Make sure you guys go follow us on your favorite social media platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, wherever. You can find us all there at True North Goaltending, except on Instagram because we like to be different. That one is YEG Goalie Coach. You can follow myself on Instagram at MondayGC. If you are watching over on the YouTube side of things and you are a returning viewer, thank you very much. Make sure you hit that like and share button. If you are a new watcher, a new subscriber, whoever that may be, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and so you never miss a moment. Same thing on the podcasting platforms as well. If you are a returning listener, thank you. Please hit that share button. If you are a new listener to the pod, whether that be on Apple, iHeart, or Spotify, make sure you hit that follow button, as we do release new episodes every Tuesday. And yeah, just hit the share button. The more people that we can bring this awesome content that we have to, the more goalies that we're able to bring together, the better, basically. Go check us out, TrueNorthGoaltending.com. We have a lot of good stuff happening over there. And if you do happen to be in the Edmonton area, and if you want to book a session with us, go visit us, TrueNorthGoaltending.com, book online, come visit our synthetic ice facility. We've gotten a lot of great feedback there, a lot of fun stuff. So go check us out, TrueNorthGoaltending.com, and we'll go at it from there. On behalf of myself and Nathan Park, it has been another edition of the DIY Goalie presented by True North Goaltending. I'm tired. Make some saves, goalies. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.